Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavat Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 3, texts 9 and 10. We will read text 9 together. Tam Adbhutam Balakam Ambuja Ikshanam Tam Adbhutam Balakam Ambujekshanam Chaturbhujam Shanka Gada Adi Udayudam Shankabhujam Shankagadadyudayudam. I'm sorry. Chaturbhujam Shankagadadyudayudam Srivatsa Lakshmam Gala Shobhi Kaustubham Srivatsa Lakshmam Gala Shobhi Kaustubham Pita Ambaram Sandra Payoda Saubhagam Pitambaram Sandra Payoda Saubhagam Tam Adbhutam Balakamambujekshanam Chaturbhujam Shankagadadyudayudam Srivatsalakshmam Galashobhikaustubham Pitambaram Sandrapayoda Saubhagam Tam Adbhutam Balakamambujekshanam Chaturbhujam Shankagadadyudayudam Srivatsalakshmam Galashobhikaustubham Pitambaram Sandrapayoda Saubhagam. This is with the word meaning. Tam, that, Adbhutam, wonderful, Balakam, child, Ambuja Ikshanam. I'm sorry, I'll read the next text also. Maharhavaidurya Kirita Kundala Tvisha Parishvakta Sahasra Kuntalam Uddamakanchangada Kankanadibir Virochamanam Vasudeva Aikshata. What word meaning? Tam, that, Adbhutam, wonderful, Balakam, child, Ambuja Ikshanam, with eyes resembling lotuses. Chatubhujam, with four hands. Shank Gada Adi, bearing a conch shell, club, disc, and lotus in those four hands. Udayudam, different weapons. Srivatsa Lakshmam, decorated with a particular type of hair called Srivatsa, which is visible only on the chest of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Galashobi Kaustubam, on his neck was the Kaustuba gem, which is particularly available in Vaikuntha Loka. Pita Ambaram, his garments were yellow. Sandra Payoda Saubhagam, very beautiful. Being present with the hue of blackish clouds. Maha Arha Vaidhurya Kirita Kundala, of his helmet and earrings, which were studded with very valuable Vaidurya gems. Trisha, by the beauty. Parishvakta Sahasra Kuntalam, brilliantly illuminated by scattered, fully grown hair. Uddama Kanchi Angada Kankana Adivihi, with a brilliant belt on his waist, armbands on his arms, bracelets on his wrists, etc. Virochamanam, very beautifully decorated. Vasudevaha, Vasudeva, the father of Krishna. Aikshata, saw. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Sri Rabbi Charnarvind Bhakti Vedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. Vasudeva then saw the newborn child who had very wonderful lotus-like eyes and who bore in his four hands the four weapons, Shankha, Chakra, Gada and Padma. On his chest was the mark of Srivatsa and on his neck the brilliant Kaustuba gem. Dressed in yellow, his body blackish like a dense cloud, his scattered hair fully grown, and his helmet and earrings sparkling uncommonly with the valuable gem Vaidurya, the child, decorated with a brilliant belt, armlets, bangles, and other ornaments, appeared very wonderful. Can you repeat the translation? Vasudeva then saw the newborn child who had very wonderful lotus like eyes and who bore in his four hands the four weapons Shankha, Chakra, Gada, and Padma. On his chest was the mark of Srivatsa, and on his neck the brilliant Kaustuba gem. Dressed in yellow, his body blackish like a dense cloud, his scattered hair fully grown, and his helmet and earrings sparkling uncommonly with the valuable gem Vaidurya. The child, decorated with a brilliant belt, armlets, bangles, and other ornaments, appeared very wonderful. Purport. To support the word Adbhutam, meaning wonderful, the decorations and opulences of the newborn child are fully described. As confirmed in the Brahma Samhita 5.30, Barahavatam Samasitambuddha Sundarangam. The hue of the Lord's beautiful form resembles the blackish color of dense clouds. Asita means blackish and Ambuda means cloud. It is clear from the word Chaturbhujam that Krishna first appeared with four hands as Lord Vishnu. No ordinary child in human society has ever been born with four hands. And when is a child born with fully grown hair? The descent of the Lord, therefore, is completely distinct from the birth of an ordinary child. The Vaidurya gem, which sometimes appears bluish, sometimes yellow, and sometimes red, is available in Vaikuntha Loka. The Lord's helmet and earrings were decorated with this particular gem. Thus ends the Bhaktivinoda purport and translation to Canto 10, Chapter 3, text number 9 and 10 of Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Jnana Timirajasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschati Deshatarine जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. There is a wonderful description of Lord Krishna appearing as Lord Vishnu from the womb of Mother Devaki as seen by Vasudeva, the Lord's father himself. Virochamanam Vasudeva Aikshata. Vasudeva Aikshata. As Vasudeva saw Krishna, Virochamanam, very beautifully decorated, he is describing the same in these two verses. Krishna was a newborn child. As Vasudeva saw Krishna being fully decorated. So such nice description is given here. So let us see what are the features described in this verse as the Lord appeared as a newborn child. And these features distinctly marks the difference between the Supreme Lord and an ordinary child. Because no ordinary child in human society is found to have born in this wonderful manner, as the word being used there is Adbhutam Balakam. Tam Adbhutam Balakam. No ordinary child takes birth in this wonderful way, as described in regards to Lord Krishna. So these are the distinct features and symptoms of the Lord's appearance, even as a ordinary child. That means he is not an ordinary child. He is an extraordinary child. That means he is the Supreme Lord. So what are the special features with which the Lord was born? So here it is said, firstly, Ambuja Ikshanam. He had uh, wonderful lotus-like eyes. Ambuja Ikshanam. Ambuja is lotus, Ikshana refers to the eye. So the Lord's eyes was very beautifully formed, like that of a lotus. Number one. Number two, uh, Chaturbhujam Shanka Gadadi Udhayudam. In his four hands, Chaturbhujam, That means this is another interesting feature. No child is born with four hands, but here we see the Lord taking birth with four hands. This is the second symptom of Lord Vishnu taking birth and not ordinary child. These four hands, Udayudam, are carrying four different weapons. Shankha, Gada, Adi. Shankha, Chakra, Gada, Padma. Conch, wheel, club, and lotus in the four hands. So this is the second interesting feature of the Lord. The third interesting feature is Srivatsa Lakshmam. On the Lord's chest, there was the mark of Srivatsa. Srivatsa is a white curly hair, which is the residential play quarters of Mother Lakshmi, the place where Mother Lakshmi resides. In fact, in Vaikuntha, it is described in the scriptures. The Supreme Lord also has four hands with Shankha, Chakra, Gada, Padma, and even all the devotees of the Lord, all the liberated souls in the Vaikuntha Loka, even they have four hands, and even they are decorated with Shankha, Chakra, Gada, Padma, and even their bodily hue is also as described here. Uh, Sandra Payoda Saubhagam, as the Lord's bodily hue means complexion, is that of blackish cloud. Similarly, all the devotees in Vaikuntha also have the same complexion. So they also have four hands. They also have a helmet. They also have valuable stones on the helmets. They also have Shankachakra Gada Padma. Their bodily complexion also is like that of the Lord, blackish cloud. So how do you distinguish the Lord from the other jivas who are liberated souls in Vaikuntha? By the mark of Srivatsa. This is the distinct feature which only Lord Vishnu has. eh? A small tuft of hair on the Lord's chest where Lakshmi resides. So, that is the third symptom here of the Lord's appearance. On his chest was the mark of Srivatsa. The fourth symptom of the Lord appearing is his neck is decorated with the brilliant Kaustuba gem. Gala Shobi Kaustubham. Gala means neck, Shobi means beautified by Kaustubham, by the Kaustuba gem. This Kaustuba gem is not available in this material world. This Kaustuba money is available only in Vaikuntha Loka. You can't get this in this world. Then, Pita Ambaram, this is the next symptom, fourth symptom. The Lord was dressed in yellow garments. Now, which child is born with four hands? Which child is born with four weapons? Which child will have a Srivatsa mark? Which child will take birth totally with full costumes while taking birth itself, fully dressed? But the Lord was fully dressed. Pita Ambaram. He was fully dressed when he was born. Then, the fifth symptom is his body blackish like a dense cloud. Now, this particular color, there are so many children who are born blackish also. But this particular blackish hue is very unique. It is Shyama. No Jiva has this color or complexion. Shyama, particularly. Blackish, like that of a dense cloud, or sometimes described as blackish blue. Both refer to the word Shyama. Or here it is referred as Sandra Payoda Saubhagam. Then the sixth symptom of the Lord appearing as a human child. but not a human child, is his scattered hair fully grown. See? Prabhupada says in the purport, which child is grown with hair on his head, fully grown hair? A born child will not have any hair. The hair slowly comes later, grows later. But the Lord was born with fully grown hair. Then, the sixth symptom, uh, his helmet and earrings sparkling uncommonly with the valuable gem Vaidurya. Maha Arha Vaidurya Kirita Kundala. His helmet and earrings both were bedecked with Vaidurya gem. This Vaidurya gem is also not available in the material world. Among the many gems and precious stones which are available, Kaustuba and Vaidurya are not available in this world. This is also found only in Vaikuntha Loka. Therefore, nobody can, you know, pick up the Vaidurya gem from this world, even for decorating himself. It is not available. It's available only in Vaikuntha. That means the Lord is coming directly from Vaikuntha. That's what it means. Then, the next symptom is uh, Uddama Kanchi Angada Kankana Adibihi Virochamanam. And the other decorations are Udama Kanchi Angada Kankanadibihi. That means this child was born fully decorated with a brilliant belt around his waist. The child was born with a brilliant belt. Then he had armlets on his arms. He had bangles around his wrist and many other ornaments. So, which child is born decorated with ornaments? This way, the child appeared very wonderful. Adbhutam. And this is how Vasudeva saw Lord Krishna. And as Vasudeva saw, even the Devatas were seeing. That's why we see the last chapter that they were offering prayers, you know, to Krishna when he was in Devaki's womb. And they could also see Lord Krishna appearing from Mother Devaki's womb. They were also very fortunate. So, as Vasudeva is seeing, he is describing how the Lord has appeared. It is not an imagination. Many times when the Lord is described in this way, the Mayavadis or the impersonalists or the non-devotees, they think these are all imaginary descriptions. The Lord having four hands, or the Lord having two hands, the Lord's hands decorated with Shankha Chakra Gada Padma, Lord having nice yellow garment and dazzling helmets decorated with Vaidurya gem, nice necklace. Looks like a poetic description or an artist's imagination. Nice painting, nice imagination. That's not true. That's why here it is said, Vasudeva Aikshata Virochamanam. Vasudeva is seeing this, uh, these features eye to eye. Personally, Aikshata, he is personally seeing. These are not imaginary descriptions or exaggerations. These are real description descriptions of the Supreme Lord. Interestingly, when the Lord appears as an incarnation, it is the mercy feature of the Lord. Because when the Lord appears as an incarnation, even common people could see the Lord like this. When Krishna appeared, when Lord Rama appeared, this is description at the time of birth. But otherwise, later after his birth, all the Leelas of Krishna, all the Leelas of Lord Ramachandra, when they assumed a human like form and manifested their presence. Even common people could see, not only great rishis and devotees and devatas, even common people could see the Lord as such. Like in Brahma Samhita, Lord Brahma also describes, here Prabhupada quotes, Barhavatam Samasitambuda Sundara Mangam. That the Lord is having a peacock feather upon his head. And Asita Ambuda, again the same description. Asita means blackish, Ambuda means cloud. That means the Lord's complexion, bodily color was like that of a dense dark cloud. Same thing is described in Vasudeva here. Sandra Payoda Saubhagam. See how scriptures, different acharyas, different devotees, they describe the Lord in the same way. There is no contradiction. That means it is reality. Mm. So you can cross check. Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. You can cross check. None of them should contradict each other. Otherwise, there could be an issue. But here we see Shastra is describing, Vasudeva is describing, Lord Brahma is describing at different times. Same description. How can it be imaginary or false? So we accept the authorities, Vedic authorities, spiritual authorities. Um, that is the way of learning and realizing, learning Vedic scriptures and realizing God. Mahajana yena gata sapantha. We should follow in the footsteps of Mahajanas to be able to see the Lord, understand the Lord. And if we neglect the path of Mahajanas, there is no other alternative. There is no other way. One will simply speculate and imagine. That's all. And finally conclude, these are all imaginary descriptions. There is nothing like the Lord being a person, the Lord having these wonderful features. Nothing like these things. So you will end up concluding opposite of what the acharyas, scriptures, sadhus, and the Lord Himself, what they describe about the Lord. You will come to the opposite conclusion. You see? So, uh, see, such detailed description is there. Hmm? How it can be imagined. So, uh, the Mayavadis, they think that the Lord's form is material or imaginary. They think there is no variety in the Lord. The Lord is varietyless. Or Brahman. They describe the Lord as Brahman. Brahman means varietyless. No quality, no attributes, no glories, no activities, because no form only. Fundamentally, they think there is no form of God. There is no personality. There is no existence of personality. Their only idea of personality and form is material. They do not know that there is a spiritual personality, there is a spiritual form, spiritual variety, spiritual activity, spiritual existence. They have no idea. They only have comprehension, understanding, and experience of material life, material experience, material activity, material form, material taste, material variety. And they conclude these are all material and false, which is also wrong because material variety, material form is not false, it is temporary. It is temporary, not false. Why do they come to this conclusion? Because of frustration. Mayavadis, or who is that person who takes to Mayavadi philosophy? A frustrated spiritualist. He takes to the Mayavadi philosophy. First of all, When one comes to spiritual life, of course, if he is guided by the acharyas, then he comes to spiritual life in a positive way. But when one is not guided by the acharya, then once stepping into spiritual life itself is on a wrong footing. The beginning itself is a wrong start by the Mayavadis. First of all, the conditioned soul tries to enjoy in this material world. And after sufficiently trying to enjoy sense gratification, and if he becomes frustrated in all the attempts, then he tries to end his material existence and identity by merging into the Supreme Brahman, into the Brahman, Brahma Jyoti. He wants to end his material identity and existence because his experience of material form, material activity, material life means simply misery. That is his experience. Simply miserable. Of course, one credit is there of the Mayavadi. What is that? At least he has realization that this material life is miserable. One credit is there. There is no happiness in material life. So, in that sense, he is not a foolish person. He is not a Muda in that sense. Otherwise, by and large, people who are after sense gratification, material pursuits are actually being described as Mudas according to Krishna in Bhagavad Gita because they're foolish. Muda means foolish because there's no happiness in this world. It is simply misleading, alluring. There's only allurement and false hope of happiness, but there is no happiness because it is dead matter. Dead matter cannot produce or bring about happiness. There's no consciousness. There's no life. Happiness is an experience that can be experienced only by soul because soul is a real life, real living person. So any experience is possible only in the spiritual platform. Why? Because only soul can experience things. Matter cannot experience. Matter lacks the faculty of experiencing. Matter, there's no experience in matter. Soul only experiences. Therefore, whether happiness or distress or any kind of feeling can be experienced only in the spiritual platform, can be experienced only by the soul. Therefore, only in the spiritual platform. So these Mayavadis, they understand. They have come to this point. Okay, in matter there is no happiness. Therefore, they say Jagat Mithya. Of course, they come to a wrong conclusion, thinking that the world itself is false. World is not false; it is temporary. The happiness which you think that this material world can give is the false thing. That is a fact. But that they don't understand. They understand things all wrongly. So, because they cannot experience happiness, they conclude this material world is false. So, Prabhupada always said that the grapes is sour. The fox was once trying to get some grapes which was hanging on the top of the tree, but it could not reach out to the grapes which was hanging very high up in the tree. So finally, after attempting so much, finally the fox declared, "Oh, the grapes is sour. I don't need grapes." So this is frustration. Let the Mayavadis, being frustrated in trying to enjoy this world, finally come to the conclusion this world is false. Material form means false. Material activity means false because they've experienced frustration in relationships, in different forms of sense gratification. They've experienced frustration, but they do not know there is positive experience. There is real form. There is real happiness. There is real activity, which is simply joyful. For them, activity means miserable. Experience means misery. Therefore, they want to be away with it. So they say everything is false. They say Brahma Satyam, but they do not know what is that Brahma Satyam. They don't have experience. Therefore, they conclude that Brahman is impersonal because they don't have experience. So, one who does not have realization comes to impersonal conclusion. One who has realization of the Supreme Lord as a person will not come to the impersonal conclusion. This is the difference between the impersonalist and the personalist. This is the difference between the devotee and the Mayavadi. Hmm. The devotees are not frustrated. They know the Adbhuta, wonderful features of the Supreme Lord in Vaikuntha and the Lord's Adbhuta Krama, wonderful activities in the Vaikuntha planet. And even in this world when the Lord appears, he knows the Lord's Adbhuta Krama. So he relishes. The devotees relish spiritual activity, spiritual form, spiritual life because they live in reality. They know their spirit soul and the Lord is the Supreme Spirit. And there's a wonderful relationship between the Lord and the Jiva. And wonderful relationships, wonderful leelas. Therefore, they're not frustrated. They accept variety, spiritual variety. There is material variety also, there is spiritual variety. The devotees know both of the features and they also know which is inferior, which is superior. Hmm. Material varieties are inferior, but not false. Spiritual varieties are true and superior. For every material counterpart, there is a spiritual counterpart, which is true in its existence and which simply gives ananda. Every spiritual aspect in the spiritual world simply brings about ananda. But in the material world, every material aspect brings about nir-ananda, misery. So, uh, now somebody may say, no, 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 the Mayavadis or the impersonalists, they're not frustrated to declare that the world is false and Brahman is impersonal, all these things. Somebody may say, it's not necessarily frustration. Then what could be the reason? Why they're rejecting spiritual variety, spiritual existence? Why are they rejecting? Very simple, because they don't have realization of the spiritual form and spiritual world. Number one. Number two, because if you don't know, you can say, I don't know. Matter becomes simple. But on the other hand, instead of accepting ignorance, they go one step further to insult the Supreme Lord and commit an offense at his lotus feet. And what is that insult and offense? To say the Lord's form is material, the Lord's form is imaginary, the Lord's form is false, the Lord's leelas and activities are false. This is a serious offense. This is a serious offense. Because of this offense, they are actually punished with not being able to realize the personal form and features of the Lord. It's a punishment. Prabhupada says one place, if somebody is very beautiful, very intelligent, very smart, very dynamic, and then you tell him he's very ugly looking, and then you tell him he's a fool number one, he is unintelligent, he doesn't have brain. Somebody has wonderful qualities, and then you tell you you say there are no attributes in him at all. It is actually an insult. Suppose somebody is state first, and then say he's a fool number one. He has no brains. It's actually a direct insult. So that's why Prabhupada says Mayavadis are actually offenders. The Lord is very pained at their comments. on the Supreme Lord. The Lord is very pained. Naturally, no. When I say you are formless, you have no beauty, you are so ugly, you are a fool number one, you are blind, you are dumb, you are deaf, and you have nice ears, you have nice speaking capability, you have nice voice, you have nice eyes, and then you say you are blind, you are deaf, you are dumb. It's an insult. And the Lord has such wonderful features. And then we are discrediting all of these things. So therefore, it's an offense. And therefore, as a punishment, they will never be able to access or realize or understand the Supreme Lord. Another point we should notice, should we accept the words of the Mayavadis or should we accept the words of the great Vaishnava authorities like Vyasadeva, Narada Muni, Vasudeva, the great rishis, Bhishmadev? They're all describing. They're seeing the Lord. They're having realization of the Lord. They're seeing the Lord face to face and describing. Will we accept the words of these great authorities like Narada, Vyasa, Bhishma and accept the form of the Lord, wonderful features of the Lord? Or will you accept the words of the Mayavadis who have no spiritual standing? And on the other hand, they're offenders. Therefore, they fall down in spiritual life. They cannot continue their spiritual standing or spiritual status. They will fall down very soon. This is what Shukadeva Goswami said. Hmm. So he says, Arukya Krichtena Param Padam Tataha Patanti Adaha Anadrita Yushmadangrayaha. Because of their offense at the lotus feet of Krishna or Vishnu, they fall down even though they elevate themselves to spiritual platform. They do a lot of tapasya. They try to realize that their spirit or Brahman. But even after trying to attempt to realize their spiritual identity, they fall down because of their offensive mentality. The Lord's form is imaginary, the Lord's activities and leelas are false and material, hmm, bound by karma, or that the Lord assumes a material form, although actually formless. These are all wrong statements, completely misleading, misrepresentation, very serious. Yeah. Misrepresentation considered very serious. Just like you see today, even in our law, impersonalization is considered a crime. Considered a crime. You cannot misrepresent a person. You can put a case. You can sue a case on that person who misrepresents you. Imagine now, the Supreme Lord only they're misrepresenting. It's a quite a serious case. Mhm. So that's why Krishna says, Avajananti mam mudha manushim tanumashritam param bhavam ajananto mama bhuta maheshwaram mavyayam anuttamam. Different ways Krishna has explained that to the Mayavadis and non-devotees and impersonalists, I reserve the right to be exposed to them. And they think, the impersonalists or the Mayavadis, they think actually Brahman or the Supreme is formless, but has assumed a human form later on. It's exactly what people say. 99% in the world, if at all they have idea of God, this is what they will say. Actually, Krishna, Rama, these are all imaginary. Originally, the Lord is formless. This is not the true form, what we see in the temple. This is not the true form. Originally is Brahman, formless. It is assumed a form for our convenience, so that you can see, you can worship, become purified. Once you become purified, you come to formlessness. This is not what the Acharyas have described, what the Shastra is describing, nor Krishna said so. Krishna, in fact, is saying, foolish people, hmm, foolish people say that I was actually formless and I have assumed a form. But Krishna is saying, no, I have a transcendental form. That's my true identity. Yam Shyam Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupam. See, Brahma is saying, Shyama Sundara Achintya Gunaswarupa. Swarupa, Krishna's form, Guna, his quality is Achintya, inconceivable. materially. Very, very beautiful. Kandarpa Koti Kamaniya Vishesha Shobham. His beauty surpasses millions of cupids. Such descriptions are there. Barahavatamsam. Brahma is saying that Krishna is having a peacock feather on his head. It's not a imaginary description of a poet. Krishna actually has a peacock feather on his head. It's not that it is nice to put a peacock feather in Krishna's head. No, actually he's having a peacock feather on his head. He's having earrings studded with Vaidurya gem. Actually he's having Kaustuba uh, neck chain. Actually he has got, not an imagination. So because of the reference, Krishna says, Naham Prakasha Sarvasya Yoga Maya Samavrita. I don't reveal my true personality to them. Therefore, they cannot see. More interestingly, the last point is the Lord personally comes to this world to make false all the Mayavadis' explanations that the Lord is formless. So that becomes disproved when the Lord personally appears in his Vaikuntha form. Sambhavami Atma Maya, Krishna says, I descend in my original spiritual form, either as four-handed or as two-handed. In Vaikuntha, Lord has four hands. In Krishna Loka or Goloka, Lord has two hands. The Lord appears in both these forms in this world, alternately. Directly appears, and still the Mayavadis are not able to appreciate and accept the Lord as a form. So this is their misfortune. That is why, in this regard, there's a very nice pastime, very nice incident. Why does the Lord come personally to this world? Because there are so many jivas who are misled and have forgotten the Lord, lost connection with the Lord, absolutely disconnected from the Lord, and struggling and suffering in this world. So the Lord personally comes down to this world to deliver the living entities, including the Mayavadis, to show them special mercy. Like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu descended to show special mercy, particularly upon the Mayavadi community, and convinced them and made them devotees. So, in this regard, there was one instance which took place some few centuries ago uh, between Akbar and Birbal. Once Akbar asked Birbal, or rather, he questioned Birbal, why will the Lord ever come to this world? Even if he has to deliver the jivas, the living beings, he can accomplish delivering the jiva in many other ways. He can be in the spiritual world and make all arrangements for the deliverance of the jiva. Why should he personally come? I don't believe this, that the Lord comes to this world, he said. Birbal said, "Hmm, that's true. The Lord can have many, many arrangements in delivering the jiva. Not that he has to personally come. So I don't have an immediate answer. Give me some time." Then few days passed. So one day they had planned to go somewhere on the other side of the river. So they all sat on a boat, Akbar, Birbal. Then Akbar's son also was accompanying them, and some more assistants, soldiers and some assistants along with Akbar, his retinue basically. So they were all moving on the boat, and some time passed, and suddenly Akbar's son fell into the waters. So Akbar was shocked. Immediately Akbar plunged into the waters to save his son. Then when he actually saved his son, he realized, oh my God, it was a wax model of his son, not his son. So Akbar felt really offended. He got into the boat and got onto the case of Birbal. Said, "What nonsense you have done! You scared me in a moment. I became breathless for a moment, seeing my son drowning in the waters. It was a wax model. What nonsense you have done? I almost lost my life in saving my son. Then Birbal said, Akbar, please be patient. Don't get agitated. What do you mean by don't get agitated? What have you done? Then Birbal said, my lord, please hear me patiently. You could have told your soldiers, your commander also was there in the boat. They could have jumped in the waters and saved your son. Why did you jump personally? He said, because I thought it is my own son. Yes, because it was your own son, you personally wanted to save him because of your personal bonding and connection and love and affection which you have with your son. So Akbar says, okay, so what's the point you are trying to make? So this is the answer to your question, my lord. You asked me why the Lord personally has to come to this world to deliver the jivas. He can send his agent, he can make all arrangements, any other arrangement possible to deliver the jivas. Why the Lord personally comes? Because out of compassion, out of anxiety, out of love for his own part and parcel, Lord personally comes to save his part and parcel. So that's where the Lord comes as incarnation. So Akbar understood and appreciated Birbal's attempt. So in this way, we can see the Lord personally comes to this world to convince us, come back to the spiritual world, come and join me. Hmm? You'll become fully happy. So that's why the Lord personally comes. Otherwise, He can make all arrangements. But the Lord, He has a lot of anxiety, lot of love, lot of compassion, lot of mercy, all mixed rasas. And therefore, He wants to personally come to take back all the living entities who are His own children. Unfortunately, Mayavadis still think that the Lord is impersonal. These are all imaginary stories. They have no idea of Vaikuntha. They only have idea of material world, which is miserable. So they have no place. Material world they cannot live because it is miserable. Vaikuntha for them they have no idea, no clue, doesn't exist. So what is their position then? They only think about Brahman, which also they have no idea what is Brahman and what is spirit. So their entire existence is simply on a false platform. So unless they get the mercy of a Vaishnava or the Supreme Lord Vishnu, actually they cannot correct their mentality. They cannot be out of their offensive mentality. Only a Vaishnava has to bless them. Therefore, Vaishnava Acharyas, they come and give their valuable association and even change these Mayavadis. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did that and changed the Mayavadis of his times, who were thousands in number, who were dominating in Kashi at that point of time. And Lord Chaitanya influenced them by his preaching and by his purity and made all of them into Vaishnavas. So I'll stop here. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Shri Prabhupada ki jai.